All right, how's everybody doing? Hope everybody's doing well. So today, Blender, I'm running 4.0. Doesn't matter. Every Blender has a bunch of things that I haven't learned how to do yet. I just use it to mostly just do basic modeling, whether it's game assets, things like that, tabletop gaming, 3D printable models, things of that nature. But plan today is to make a low poly. Get rid of this cube. As we can see, it's real basic. Nothing fancy. Bigger. Nothing too fancy, but I've recently undertaken a game dev side hobby, and I can't nor want to make very high poly, insanely detailed models. Quite frankly, that takes a lot of time. And when you are first starting out, especially if you're doing it by yourself, when it comes to game dev, you don't necessarily want to spend all that time making insanely high poly assets. So this video is just focusing on modeling this, and then that way it'll be ready for, doing your own materials and working your way up to having it ready so you can export it and use it as an object in a game, using an engine like Unreal, Unity. So that out of the way, let's hide that because we reference later. First thing you want to do, go ahead, bring yourself in another cube because everybody deletes the default cube. I will say off the bat, I do use some paid add-ons. You can do this all in organic Blender, vanilla Blender. It doesn't need anything crazy, but I use different add-ons that we'll see. For instance, I use, hard ops, mostly hard ops in this video, but the basics, my screencast keys aren't working, so I'll do the best to make it work and try to talk about what I'm doing. So yeah, you start with a cube. I personally, most people don't like leaving the item panel open. I do, mostly just because it's a good reminder that I need to remember to scale things. So first thing you want to do is go ahead, start making your base the cabinet. So size it up, hit S, press Y to size it on the Y. Something, something like that. Nothing too crazy. Simple. Press Shift D after clicking on that, and you can highlight it, duplicate it, make another one. Add S, Z to scale it on the Z axis. Bring that down. And then to make it overlap, you just, while it's selected, press X, Z, or Shift Z. Just kind of size it out to how you want. I'm going to fix this. Get more even. But when you press Shift and then Z, X, or Y, that will keep it from scaling on that axis. It just takes, whatever one you didn't press Shift and then with it, and that keeps it from scaling on that axis. So see that it's definitely, that size works, but we want to make it just a little bit less. So X, scale on Y down, something like that. A little bit of overhang, nothing crazy. This stuff's not rocket science. It's just easier. So what we'll do, click it, Shift D to duplicate again, bring it down. If you don't have this move tool in here, you can hit Shift and space, and then you go down to where it says move, and you click that. I'll bring it up. Yeah. So Shift D, you can also press G. Same way, so if we control Z, press G, then you want to move it on the Z, the X, or the Y. Me, I have the toggle on, so I just. And what we're going to do here is get this into place, and then same thing. This is going to be like our bottom trim, so we want to just make it a little, just so it sticks out a little. Build that nice little. So look at that, already looks like a cabinet. It's pretty cool. So you guessed it, another thing we're going to do, low poly is, squares and cubes. When I first started modeling, I got really focused on making everything exact, and all your models should start in the low poly space. Make them with squares or with cubes and cylinders and basic shapes, and then refine from there. But Shift A again. Also, if you don't know the hotkeys for whatever reason, go up here, click Add, same menu. And then your toolbar's over on this side. So your move tool, your rotate tool, your scale tool. But once you learn the hotkeys, it's not that hard. I'm pretty sure there's probably 100 Blender, hotkey images on Google that you can download and use that way. So press X to go to the front view because I'm building this on the wrong plane. Shift A, add, you're gonna bring in another cube, bring it out, scale it. Doesn't have to be super thick. All you're really trying to do is get it so there's enough to join it together when it overlaps. So scale this on the Y to make it a little wider. Get it to where you want it. Scale it Z, maybe a little bit. Probably. And then get back. So it sticks out a little, nothing crazy. And then once you have your first drawer piece set up, you want to make sure you press Control A, scale. That resets all the numbers over here. So if we look right now, because we've been resizing it, your scale's all wrong. Before you do any editing or scaling or anything like that, you really want to make sure you set your scale, because otherwise it gets. So you get your first drawer piece. Super simple. All I'm going to do from here, if you have hard ops, you can use Q. Press Q, go to array, do it that way. Also, conversely, you can go into here, press search, array. You're doing the same thing. This is where you adjust your X, Y, and Z, how far you want their offset to be. So if you do something like this, so it's not going to make any difference because we're on the X-axis, but do this, you can see we're now moving it on the Y. We don't want to move it on the Y. We want to move it on the Z. So bring your number down, drawer, right here where it says count. You add another one to that, and that just gives you a note. And then from there, you can spread them all out. And they're all connected right now, so you can bring them up a little bit. Make it look something like that. Again, low poly, doesn't have to be super, detailed or exact. And then once you're done, just apply all, and now you have all three of these. They're all connected to each other. Good. So, because we're building a kitchen cabinet and it's got a lot of squares, cubes, yourself in another cube. Where you want it, scale it on the X, make it a little thinner, nothing crazy. And then scale it, Shift X so you don't mess with the thickness. Get it to where you kind of want it, and then make it. Make these wider. Smidge. And same as before, you just bring it back, you want to get real particular, you can go to the side view, line it up, make sure it's all even. Just like that, you can kind of see got ourselves a nice little cabinet going. Same thing, Control A, scale, because now we're getting into going and model it a little bit. So tab, go into edit mode. Again, you can go up here, go to edit mode, down. But for me, when you do an array, it's all one piece. So all of these are connected. So when you're editing all of them. So what we want to do is make sure you're in face mode. You can click up here, E3 on the numpad, hold down shift, select all these faces, and then all we want to do is you press I, that insets it. Set it a little bit, get your initial border. You're going to inset it again. Actually, do this. Let's go back. Take this, and we'll join them together so we can just edit them all. We're going to join it all together in the end anyway, so just save steps. Back in the edit mode. Here. Here. Inset. Set them all at the same time, so you have equal border thickness. Set it one more. And all you're going to do is, again, select those three faces, or those four faces. You can either press G and then X to pull them out, or if you have your move tool selected, bring them out. Something like that. Have or look. And from there, tab back in object mode. See now we have fancy looking drawers and cabinet door. So from here, for knobs, you can do different things. For a handle, you can do like a torus. So if you go down, mesh, torus, over here, you have major segments, stuff like that. Don't worry too much about that. It's low poly. You can use this as your handle. So, just go in edit mode, go top view, Shift Z. Shift Z is so you can do your wireframe and your X-ray. That way you can see through it. Select all these. Press X. Delete the vertices. We got 1, 2. Want to get just these ones. X, delete, back, 2, Control or Alt and Shift at the same time selects all those edge loops. Right click, edge tools, loop tools, bridge. Bridge edge loops. Now, you can also just press F to fill it. Disregard the bridging. Press F to fill. But yeah, then you scale it down wherever you want it. Simple. But I like cylinder looking knobs, so for Shift A, bring in a cylinder. 32 is fine. You don't really need any more than that. It's going to be so small, it's going to look pretty smooth. And rotate. Press R to rotate, Y 90. Back to your front view. Scale it down. Move it roughly into place. Scale it again. Get it to right around the size you want. I like to make mine just a little bigger. That way they look decent. So from there, you got, basic little knob. Now you could just leave it like that. simple. It works. I like to do a little more to them. So first things first, Control A, scale. You want to do the rotation as well. Tab, face, select this face. Extrude it out a little bit. Scale it up. Extrude it out some more. That, scale it down. Yeah. Like that. A little too big. View. Press Control and R so you can make a loop cut. This. And 3, or go up here, select face mode. Alt Shift to get all of them. Then do is go over to extrude region, right click, extrude faces along normals, and then you can make this wider. Yep. Give you more of that buttony. This whole thing. Very obviously too big, so scale down some more. Put on the X to kind of shrink it. Back into place. Super simple. Get a little knob, Control A, scale it again. Hey, let's face out just a little. That's it, and then just put ever so small bevel if you want. You don't have to. But and then same thing, you know, you can make it bigger if you want it to be like a pole drawer. You can do this. You can even bring it back in a little bit to make it round. And all I'm gonna do, if you have hard ops, Q, sharpen. That makes for a pretty fancy looking knob. So from there, Shift D, bring one over here. It's pretty well center. Doesn't have to be perfect. Yep. And the same way we did the array for these 3, just click on here, make sure you're scaling, everything's good. Add modifier, search, array, count of 3, 0. Then you just start bringing this up backwards. And then you just want to space them out to where they're all even. Simple. So with that, I mean, you already got yourself a pretty nice looking counter. Probably, you know, shorten this up a little bit on the X, or on the X, just to make it a little smaller. But with that, that's, you know, you got yourself a pretty decent looking thing. But I like to add a little more. So go to your right face view. You can also press the tilde key, which is the key above the tab key. And, you know, right, left, whichever side you want to work on, top. Also just use these wheels. Use the gizmo. Same thing, Shift A, you know, add another cube. Bring it out so it's kind of visible. And scale it down. Scale it on the Z to make it a little wider or a little taller. And then off to the side, like this, in a little something like that. And then bring it back just a little. Control A, rotation, scale, tab, click on this face. And then you're going to want to extrude this face out a little bit. I mean, you don't have to extrude it. You can just scale it down. So you can just scale it down, give yourself a little point. tab, object, drag it out, something like that. So reset the scale. And then what you can do from here is use the mirror tool. So same thing, go over to your modifiers, search here. Take this little eyedropper and select your main cube. And then as you can see, it's already popped another one over in the place. Yeah. Do that. Here, because right. Chunky. There. Messed with the scale. Reset your scale. Back into here. Search. Mirror. In the earlier versions of Blender, depending on what version of Blender you have, you won't have the search thing. When you do a modifier, you'll have a little box that pops up and you choose it, but same. And then same thing, click your cube. And then from here, if you want to size them away, like if you want this to be skinnier, wider, you can just press S. Not S. You can grab it and say you want to do it on the X. So G to grab. You're in the same view as me, X axis. I'm going to leave them where they are because it looks fine. And then make sure you clicked on it. Apply all. That way it saves it applies your modifier. So from here, Shift A, bring in a cylinder. Again, 32 is fine. RY90. This S to scale. Scale it down until you get it to be about the thickness you want. And bring it into place, and then scale on the X-axis. Scale, Shift X. That way it doesn't make it any longer on the X. Yeah, then you got a little towel rack looking job on the side. So really, I mean, next part is just going in here, applying your scale to everything because you should. Make sure everything's scaled. It's just good practice. All your knobs are scaled. Make sure your arrays are applied. And then yeah, very simple, very quick. It goes a lot quicker when you're just modeling, obviously, if you stuck around for this long. But yeah, so right there, I mean, you got a workable deal. You want to give it some materials. You go up here, shading. Go down into, you don't have to, but what I do is go down until you see this little crosshair, drag this over, thing on the bottom. Just gives you more space to work with. And then all you're gonna do, click on, if you haven't joined them yet, I prefer to wait to join them all until the end, especially when you're doing different materials. But for basic materials, if you want to render it out, take some pictures, whatever, click new. That'll open up a principled BSDF. You don't really need to mess with anything in here. Go into your color, pick a nice color you want. We're going to pick dark bush color or something like that. Click up here, new one. Make this like a brown, reddish brown, same thing, drag it all the way down. Make it pretty dark. Click this one instead of clicking new, that, and same thing. These knobs, make a new one all the way down, black if you want. Something like that. Thing. Click on the little globe. Make sure you pick the right material. And then for these pieces, I usually just match them to a dark. This one, take this material, and then if you click this little number right here, it'll separate it from the other material. So this is material 2. material 5 or 4. I like to make this lighter so it adds some difference to everything. And then there you go. Super quick, super simple, basic texturing. If you want to get into some lights and stuff, go over into your shading. Obviously, it's going to be really dark right now. Go up to here, use cycles, CPU compute. Noise is fine. Drop your viewport down to like 150. Usually do 1024. And then for your output, if you want to change the resolution when you actually have it set up, for the sake of this, we will just, first things first, get ourselves in a plane. So Shift A, add a plane. This is where obviously you don't have your gizmo, so Shift Space, move down, scale it out like this. So it's relatively for this, you just pick a color you want. I like to make it a little metallic because it gives kind of a little reflection, helps lighting. I'm not the greatest lighting person in the world, but it does the job. Shift A, go to camera, and then if you like the view you're in, just press Control Alt 0, and that'll snap the camera to your current view. And then you press G, and then click your mouse wheel. Then you can move your mouse forward and back to zoom in more your object. Before we get too crazy with that, let's make this better. This extrude. So E to extrude, Z. Click this one, Control B, give it some bevel. Yep. Then if you're using hard ops, Q to sharpen. Then from there, you go into here, Shift A, add your light, area light, it up, your light settings, take it from a shade or a square to a disc, turn this up to something crazy like, I don't know, 10,000. Pretty good. Scale it. Back like this, up like this. And if you grab this little gizmo right here, you can point your light. So shoot for like the top edge. Before you do that, I like to go into the top view. Shift D to duplicate your light. Bring one over here. And this toward that edge. This toward that edge. Next, press 0 on your numpad to bring you back to your view. Start to see you're getting your lighting down. I'm gonna darken this up a little bit. Yeah. For this, it's darker. And yeah. Fun fact, if your computer's a little slow, Control B, it's down, just box select, and that will only render out heaven here. Scale this on the Y. And then from there, you got your, thing. You can go in, you can bevel these sides a little bit. So, tab, B, edit, 2 to go to edge mode, select these edges. Just press Control B to give them ever so slight of a bevel. Doesn't make anything too crazy. Full poly is not meant to be perfect. Tab, back to object mode, 0 on the numpad. sharpen it a little bit. And then, yeah, from there, just render out. Go up here to render image. Before you do that, if you've never rendered before, go into this little icon, this little printer icon that's output. Go in, select your spot where you want to go, PNG, then render image. That should be able to see it, but it looks about the same. But yeah, so that's how you do it. Super simple. It's not anything too crazy. It's just all from memory. About what a basic kitchen cabinet looks like. So yeah, there you go. You got your basic low poly. You can use it as a game asset. You can just use it as a model if you go through and join all this if you want to. But yeah, hopefully you guys found this helpful, and we'll see you in the next one.